Cyril. What a beauty! Hawthorne was... I don't believe it! I see it, but I don't believe it! Class with a capital C! How did he do it? Liam Barry Eustace! Oh my goodness! Is this one to remember?
G'day community and welcome to the Jock Reynolds Supercoach podcast for round one. It's just completed the first round. All our pre-season planning, months of work comes to fruition this week, and this is where it really begins, Patch. This is where the journey truly starts. How are you?
Lekdog, I'm good. We've left the shore. The boat's off. They've smashed the bottle of champagne against the hull, and we're away for season 2023. And for some people, that bottle of champagne has caused massive damage to the hull of their boat as we aft off. But I've taken a few days to all get away from it all, to get down to the beach, to just have some nice little bit of relaxing after, the lid's off. Essendon's winning the flag this year, so I just thought I'd get ready for a long year ahead of us doing a lot of winning, and also just to get away from the hub and the bub of people advocating for three trades, because the convention's always been you just hold after round one, you just kind of assess the lay of the land, and then kind of after week two, before price changes, we start doing some trading. So I don't know, I'm just trying to get away from it all and keep it nice and chillaxed, loosey goose. How are you? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'll be making three trades this week.
You'll be what?
I'll be making three trades this week.
But that what
I've spent years, Patch, saying we hold and we don't make decisions after round one. We wait until the price changes. But I'm foreseeing a need to make some trades. I think a lot of people
why
out
would
there.
that be, Lekdog? Why would that? I mean, your team was fine when it was revealed. I don't know why you would possibly need to be making any tinkering. Why would you need
My
to be
team
making
was
any
very good when it
changes?
was field. We had Jordan Ridley, who turned up. We had Tom Green, who went 130 plus. I think pretty sure Riley O'Brien even turned up.
And that team would have done pretty well on the weekend, right?
Yeah, no, none of those players are in my team anymore.
Why would that be?
I made some changes to my side at the last minute. And I'm not wholly unhappy with those changes, with the exception of Liam Jones being in my team, scoring 5 points. Ben King being in my team and scoring 19 points. Jack Steele being in my team and scoring 90 points. But, Patch, I'm very happy with Max Gawn, who, in the middle of a Bucks night, appeared in my team and scored 140 points, which was fun. And Harry Sheasel made his way in as well at some stage and scored 114 on field. So we were pretty lucky in that sense. But Liam Jones, Liam Stocker, Jack Steele, yes, some players did return to my team that, well, at no point had been there. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I got lots of messages from you in various stages of sobriety over the weekend, and not a lot of them spelt good developments for your Supercoach side. When you messaged,
Max Gawn scoring 140 points is a very good development for my Supercoach.
That was a great development. I think it was outweighed by quite a few other ones. But anyway, you're going to keep tinkering. You're just going to keep fiddling around. And, the more you play with it, the more blind you'll get, is how I feel. But all right, talk me through why you want to be making three trades. Is this general advice, or is this you,
No,
as you tried to smash the champagne bottle, you tripped and fell and then put a second hole in the hole next to where the champagne bottle is? Talk me through your reasoning, your logic. Is this something the rest of the community should be following you as you gallivant through the meadow, plucking off trades for, like flowers and popping them into your mouth as you go eat some flowers, your secret shame?
No, I think we should. I think being aggressive is going to be the key to being successful in Supercoach this year. I think already we've seen a number of players put their hands up to be cash generators, and I think now's the time to jump on them. I think people are going to be making a lot of trades at the end of round two as well, so it's about setting yourself up for success and making some potentially tough calls. For me, Dylan Moore, I thought was a super sexy pod. Hawthorne got smashed and he didn't attend a CBA. So that's someone I'm probably going to corrective trade. And I think there's others out there in similar predicaments. we've got essentially 6 trades maximum before price changes occur. And if you want to maximize the value in your team and generate cash, that's going to lead to success in terms of overall ranking. Playing league, most leagues haven't started yet, so that's probably a different conversation. But I think there's definitely, normally I would preach, do not make trades. But this year, I'm going to preach, make trades. And there are some trades we're forced to make, Patch. There was a number of injuries over the weekend, including Liam Jones, who scored 5 points. We'll touch on him in a minute because he might be a different case. But Tom Stewart, he's going to miss, it looks like 3 to 4 weeks.
That's trade. That's trade time, baby. That's enough that, you just flick him on. And, if you've got that 600K in the bank, I assume you just flick him to another 600K guy. If it's a Doherty, if it's a, whoever else is at that price, Sicily, they'll all do the same thing. Jordan Dawson, do the same thing. That would be my move. Would you trade down to say, Mason Redman or somebody of that ilk, and then use the cash elsewhere?
Yeah, I'd probably, if you've got Stewart and you don't have a Doherty, then I don't think there's any necessarily a risk in trading to him. But I think this is a time to maximize the value, the opportunities you have. So if you've got a Tom Stewart and you go down to a Nick Dacos, who scored 129 points, a Luke Ryan who scored 171 points, not going to do that every week. Hayden Young 137, one of these guys that had a really solid scoring role. And it might allow you to upgrade on the other side, upgrade one of your rookies. A lot of people started a 102K loophole option. A Stewart to a Dacos and a Madden to a Sheasel is probably going to net you more points and more cash gen in the long run. So I'd be advocating for some options like that.
Yep, no, that sounds like a plan. We touched on Liam Jones, who went off, scored the 5 whole points for us, which I'm sure you were expecting him to score at some point during the year, just not from an injury-affected game. Yes. But he might get up this week, it sounds like.
Yeah, he's an annoying one, right? So it's doubly annoying for me because I spent 2 months saying don't pick him, and then I woke up and he was in my team with 5 points. Look, the 5 didn't just come from injury. It wasn't exclusively that. He started off on negative points when I logged on and jumped on and checked, and I saw, he's on -2 at quarter time or whatever it was. So It wasn't we can't wholly blame their injury, but what we can say is that
I can and I will.
Yes. The 5 stays in his rolling average for 1 week only. So that means it only affects 1 week of price rises, which means it might not stint his cash gen too much if he can come back and if he can score, let's say, an 80. But if he doesn't come back, I think we can trade him. And I think if he does come back, 20,000 coaches have already traded him out. And I think there's validity in that because I don't think his ceiling's particularly high. But if we're talking about raw numbers and cash gen, then yes, he might be one we can actually hold, despite the fact that 81% of people had him on their field rather than on their bench.
Oh, it hurts. It hurt. But it's interesting with, looking at, you mentioned Luke Ryan scoring 171 against the Saints. The Saints will, again, look like they're going to bleed points to defenders in that Brennan Cox scored 150. Liam Jones, if he gets on the park this week, the Dogs play the Saints, and that will tell us how big the ceiling is, because if he turns up against them, which based on the results from that game where defenders went off the chain, he'd be every chance to. That could boost him, but it's an interesting one. Josh Kelly was concussed on the weekend. Will miss a week of footy ball. Would you trade him?
That's another tough call. The role was there, the pre-war was there. The only thing that stopped him was that concussion. That's a harder one. He should be available. They've said that he'll be available because I think he comes out of the protocols the day before round 3, so they're expecting him to play. And that's the same with Lockie Whitfield as well. Adam Kingsley said that today on the radio. So he's probably only missing a week, and he's a primo. And if you've picked him, it's because you think he's going to average like 115 plus. And I think he probably still does. I think the benefit of a guy like him, roles there, only going to miss because of injury for 1 week. That's what they say. And there's plenty of rookies who we think, have a high ceiling that can replace him on field. At least that's what we saw in the first week. So I think, again, he's a hold. What I'm really looking to trade out, Patch, this week are the guys that's roles either reverted back to what they were before the preseason, what they always are, or guys that just straight up were doing weird stuff. And a guy that I'd be... You go.
No, or they just sucked.
Or they just sucked. They were the suckiest suck that ever sucked. The guys I'm worried about are your Nat Fyfes, your Tanner Bruins. Elliot Yeo's still in a lot of teams. He might play this week. Ben Cunnington is another one that a lot of people jumped on at the last sort of minute. He's in 10K teams, I think. Didn't perform well.
Jacob
A few
Hopper.
people went pod-wise with Brody Grundy. Yeah, Jacob Hopper's another one. These are the guys that, again, it's tough, right? Because we've only got 1 week's worth of data. The data says it doesn't look good. And they're all that awkward price point. Whereas like a guy like a Rory Laird, who only scored 50 and just played bad, I'm not so stressed. Yes, he's going to drop in cash, but you've picked him because you know that next week he's going to score 120. So I don't know. Fyfe, Hopper, what are we feeling in this sort of realm? Bruin, what are we thinking?
I wasn't happy with many of them. I was very happy with Setterfield instead of Hopper. That would just get that little gloat in there. But
Also
again, it's as you said, that 1 week of data just for me isn't enough. Like we saw, you see Tanner Bruin score 57. He may come out next week and score what Setterfield did. He may crack the ton. Likewise, Nat Fyfe playing North Melbourne this week could reasonably kick 4 goals very easily by halftime against North. I get the urge to trade them. I second lockout opened on Sunday night. I traded them. It felt really good, and then I reversed trades because I think it's worth getting that second look at them. Because again, it's just some of them they didn't really play during the practice matches. I don't know. I just want another week of data before I decide which ones to jump off and which ones to hold. Especially like Fyfe, we knew this was coming. If you didn't expect the occasional bad score from that Fyfe playing forward in games that Freo lost, then I don't know what to tell you. Like it was always going to happen.
Well, let's talk specifics. Like a Tanner Bruin, he would worry me if I was owner. 64% time on ground, that's concerning.
I am concerned.
Particularly in a game where, Tom Stewart was subbed out so early. But then again, I don't know, Paddy Dangerfield only had 60% time on ground as well. So is that something to worry about? Are we worried that he's getting managed the same amount as Paddy Dangerfield, who's 800 years old? Not sure the answer to that. And then the Fyfe one, it looked like he'd never played football, Patch. It looked like he'd never seen a football before. He couldn't take grabs. He couldn't convert. I don't know what to make of it. He looked bad.
But the week before in that practice game against Port, he looked fantastic. He looked like a dual Brownlow medalist, and maybe he was sick during the week, had something off on game day. Maybe players have bad games every now and again, and Ross Lyons have coached sides are really defensive and really hard to score football points against, and likewise, the forwards are naturally going to struggle in that situation.
Yeah, what worries me most is that they didn't pull the trigger and move him out of the forward line, which was the saving grace, I think, for a lot of people that picked him. Is like, well, yeah, he's going to play forward, but at times he's going to go into the midfield. At no point did he even look like close to it. And maybe he had a good preseason game, Patch, because he was the only one who was actually trying because he needs to. I don't know. Maybe his time's done. I agree. We probably don't have enough data. If I was a Fyfe or a Bruin owner, I'd be cutting them personally, because there's so many more value guys. Like if you didn't start a Callahan or if you didn't start a Sheasel, and I know these guys aren't going to score 100 every week, but at least if they're dropping 60s, they're dropping 60s at a much cheaper, more affordable rate than a Fife or a Bruin or a, even a Hopper, who I guess his only saving grace, right, is that he's in 80,000 teams. If that wasn't the case, he'd probably be a straight up cut as well. I was at that game. I couldn't really focus on what he was doing, but gee whiz, looking at the numbers at the end of the game, it's a concern.
But likewise, I mean, the thing that I would hate to do the most would be to trade Nat Fife to Jason Horne-Francis, and Jason Horne-Francis next week scores 56 and has less rotations in the middle, and then Nat Fife comes out and kicks 4, scores 120. Like at that point, you're just kind of moving deck chairs on the Titanic. It feels really early to be moving deck chairs on the Titanic in round 2 of a Supercoach season. I'd rather ride it out one more week, get them more data, and then that way you know who you're trading to as well. Like likewise, Harry Sheasel might, he looks like a Monty to be, playing off the halfback flank. They might play him forward all week next week just to see what it's like. Like
he might score 12 next week.
Yeah, I want more data, and I suppose we should probably talk about the rookies as well in terms of who you're going to trade them to. Because
I just want to quickly cut in, Patch. Just one final thought on that. I think what you said about trading a Fife to a Horne-Francis is spot on. I don't think that's something we should be doing. I've seen 23,000 at time of recording, 23,000 teams have traded in Jason Horne-Francis. This isn't specific to him, but if any trade I'm pulling the trigger on this week is going to someone at a lower price point to give me more flexibility, more cash, and reduce the risk of sort of dollars to point spent. I wouldn't be going sideways trades, with the exception maybe of Tom Stewart, who is essentially a max price player who we know is going to miss an extended period of time. But so broadly, I agree with you. We shouldn't be shifting chairs, but I mean, I wouldn't mind shifting chair and bucketing out a little bit of water at the same time, or more aptly shifting chair on the Titanic and stealing someone's necklace. Like, at least I'm making a bit of cash that way before I sink.
You absolute monster. You absolute monster. I get where you're coming from. It makes a bit of sense, and that's again what I would be looking at, if anything, would be someone like a Fife or a Bruin down to, if you didn't start Harry Sheasel, or if you then didn't grab like Alwyn Davey. And should we move on to talking about the rookies briefly now?
Yeah, let's talk rookies.
Because you want to trade in rookies. That's who you want to be focusing on trading in, correct?
Cash generators. That doesn't necessarily mean rookies, but it means any trade I'll be making will be leaving me in a better fiscal position. So I might go from a 500k player to a 300k player. Probably not, but I might. And I might go a 300k player, like a Hopper, to a 123k player. So that's kind of, I'm talking about stepping down to increase cash to look at diversifying my portfolio, as
Jeez, okay, Stuart Lowe from the RBA.
Bagala would be saying. All right, so let's talk rookies. I think let's broadly draw the line at 260k. And the top performing one was your man. I don't know if he's your man, but was your man Harry Sheasel, 114 points.
He was not my man. No, he's now been brought into my side as I kind of sit here with the podcast with the team open. But yeah, he played off halfback, had 34 touches, looked very much at home in his first game, as he was kind of allowed to do what he wanted by West Coast across halfback. Looked very comfortable. Good at football, it appears.
Yep, still one to remember that 114 points will only stay in his price rise for 1 week rather than 3 weeks. So there's a risk, obviously, that if he never turns up again, he's a bad selection at that elevated price of 198k. But on eye test alone, Patch.
Eye test was really good, but there's every risk he does a Camden McIntosh, and this is his highest ever Supercoach score. I doubt it, but there is still that risk. It's possible. I would not begrudge anyone for holding off for a week and waiting to get more data, which I'm considering doing.
Yeah, I think he's one that people are going to slam on their fields this week, expecting another 100 points. I was lucky enough to have him on there myself this week, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gives us a 60. And then, he is one at 200K that you could potentially wait a week to look at. It just depends how aggressive you want to go and how many changes you think you might need to make ahead of the round 3 price changes. Next up, Patch, 101 points. Finn Callaghan, 244K. A guy that didn't end up in my side, but I am looking to bring in either this week or next. Another one. I don't expect him to turn up every week, but he did look good. I don't know what to make of the GWS game because it was a kind of midfield-led return, win from behind. It didn't really. It was a strange game to watch, and I don't know how sustainable it is and how much we can rely on the players scoring what they did.
I didn't watch the game. I just watched Tom Green's number machine go brr and got very excited. So I don't know what to take out of that score. He scored a little bit more than I expected, but I'm a happy man. I'm a happy owner.
Yeah, so he didn't get any. Well, he got one CBA, I think. So predominantly was playing sort of that wing role as they said he might, but he still had 25 disposals, had 6 marks. It looked like they. Yeah, again, I don't know how strong Adelaide is defensively, but it looked like they were moving it with relative ease. Stephen Ginigliog was really good, and as you said, your boy Tom Green was awesome. He was awesome. And yeah, I don't know. Backing my gut on that one has not paid off early.
Oh, I don't think he does that for the rest of the season. I don't think he's 100 for the rest of the year, but West Coast this week could score a lot of points. Don't think he's a must-have. Finn Callaghan, but he's done everything I want him to. Cam McKenzie, everyone's got. We don't really need to talk about that aside from tip the cap to him for 93 on debut. Looked very solid, very impressive. Connor McKenna, Lekdog.
Yeah. One that we sort of flagged as a sub-risk, just ended up sneaking his way onto my field at the last minute before that Brisbane game. So I was happy with the return, but geez, I wasn't expecting it.
Are we expecting that again?
I don't know. Are we expecting Brisbane to be awful? Which they didn't look very good. Like, what's real? What do we take out of that? I don't think. Again, it's hard to say, but I don't think bringing him in at 167K or whatever his exact price is the worst call. I think he's one we could probably get ahead of. It feels like they're going to use him in that best 23 more regularly, or best 22 more regularly than the best 23 already. So I've probably seen enough to bring him into my side if I didn't already have him.
Yeah, I think I'm probably in the same boat. Likewise, looking at a few of the scores down back that were less impressive, who would he trade out for him? Liam Jones, if he doesn't get up, is an obvious trade to go straight from Liam Jones to Connor McKenna. If you don't have Jones, if you were sensible and didn't start him, would you trade up from like a Lockie Cowan or Campbell Chesser, who scored 38 and 20 respectively? Are we flicking them on the flip side?
Yeah, it's a good question. Honestly, I'd have no issues going a Jones down to a McKenna. I think that makes sense. I'm less inclined to go up from one of these 123K guys without another week's information. I can't explain why that is. I think it's because if they come out and score an 80 next week, and if they're named to play and they come out and score an 80 next week, their cash gen is so far ahead of these other guys. So I wouldn't want to be going up to him, but I'm happy to go down to him. I know Sam Darcy's in a pretty high amount of teams. I know Sam Flanders, you could do some DPP stuff and potentially go down to a McKenna. I don't mind those moves, but I certainly, all the 123K, your basement price guys, if they play again, I just want that extra week information on those guys.
Yep. No, fair enough. If we continue down the list of those, those 260K guys that scored well, Cade Chandler with Cossie Pickett out probably has a few more weeks left in him. I'm still a little bit concerned long term about him, but certainly one I'd be looking to move in. I think maybe we'll reconsider next week. Ryan Burns will miss this week for St Kilda. He got an infected knee apparently and will miss the game. Ruben Jimby, probably don't need to talk about all that much. Luke Pedler somehow found his way into my side with the tiny bit of tinkering I did with the rookies after Sunday teams were announced. 83 looked really good, looked really solid. Wouldn't expect that every week.
No, I wouldn't expect that every week, but they were talking him up in the commentary. They were talking about it's that, the first round pick that needs to explode. At various points in the weekend, he was in my team. He didn't end up there, and apparently we were a bit disparaging of him on last week's podcast. So apologies to Luke Pedler. We know he's a listener, and he bounced back and matched our criticism. If he does it again this week, I will trade him into my side. But at this stage, yeah, I'd say he's a watch. I just don't know how to read that Adelaide game. It was so weird. They were up and about, and then they just went to water. I don't really know what to make of it. It's a really difficult one.
Yeah, he's certainly one that we would want a bit more data on. Likewise, Charlie Comben played in the ruck all day for North Melbourne after Tristan Cherry went down with the dreaded syndesmosis. I'm a doctor.
The future of North Melbourne's ruck division, according to Clarko before the game.
So welcome back, Todd Goldstein. And I don't know what that does for Charlie Comben's scoring. Again, probably wait and see. Tom Cole didn't start in the end, annoyed at that. He scored 78, looked reasonably good, and they look to use him. But again, if you don't have him, probably wait and see if he does it again next week before we jump on. And then we kind of keep scrolling down.
Matthias Philippou is probably the next one.
Was good. He was good. I don't know if he's a must-have, but he was good. Liam Stocker, though, is the one I want to pick your thoughts on, Lekdog. Having not seen that St Kilda Freo game, scored 74 in 3.3% of sides, 216k. Is reasonably expensive to fork out for, but would he be worth it?
Yeah, just look, despite my absolute shit talking of him all preseason, he did somehow end up in my side. In place of Jordan Ridley. Him and Liam Jones were supposed to outscore Jordan Ridley and a 100k rookie, but they didn't. So he only took the one kick in. He was sort of being used as the receiver of that kick in. 77% game time. He's not a huge tank player. Like that was always his issue with the Blues. He doesn't really have a super defensive mindset, which means they probably won't use him in that way, which means he should be that sort of second or third kick in the chain. But yeah, would I be rushing to trade him in? I don't think so until he can do it for another week at least. Yeah, it's just relatively nice role, but I'm not sure how good St Kilda will be. And they do like that possession game, though, Ross Lyon teams, that kick mark possession game, which he can do. That's something he can do. He can kick and mark. It's about all he's going to do.
Fair enough.
Yeah, definitely not a must-have.
No, sorry, and before I mentioned Ryan Burns is missing a week. Jack Bytel is missing a week. Ryan Burns is probably not relevant he scored 92, but he's 262k. Wouldn't be rushing to trade him in. So sorry, just me messing up a name. Who would have thought, Lekdog? Who would have thought?
Not me.
Not you. Jai Menzies scored 68 in a flogging of Hawthorn. Again, wouldn't be rushing to trade him in. Will Phillips was the sub and scored 65, courtesy of that Cherry injury. Looked reasonably good here and there, despite what Kane Corns might tell you. Still in 26.2% of sides. So if you're one of those, there's every chance he comes into that side now and somebody else moves out. But one I'm watching if he cements his spot in that side over the next week or two.
Yeah, would have loved him to score a bit less, to be honest with you. Was kind of hoping that when I saw him as sub, he'd come on in that sort of last quarter and, scored 10 points, 32% CBAs in his not brief time on ground. He's on ground for half the game, but that's a pretty positive sign. So if he gets named in the side, he's going to be one that we want to target pretty early. Definitely was a fan of him. Sam Flanders scored 64.
Flanders.
I didn't watch the Gold Coast game, Patch. I don't even remember who they played, if I'm being honest with you. But they played Sydney. I can't tell you a heap about what they did.
No, Gold Coast did not do well. They did not play particularly good football.
Your boy Matt Rowe's back though, top scorer,
yeah.
or not top scorer, but top couple of scorers for Gold Coast.
Oh yeah, huge from Matty Rowell, and I will be keeping a very close eye on him next week to see if he does it again. But good God, I'm not rushing to bring him in.
So Flanders had 14% CBAs, by the way, so he attended a couple of those CBAs.
Which again we expected with Tuke Miller back in the side. He scored 113. Kudos to anyone that backed their guts and started him. Very exciting for them. While we're on that game, Charlie Constable scored just the 56, despite having 23 kicks. Not many of them were very good. He went at 46% disposal efficiency, and none of those kicks were contested, or maybe a couple were. He had 5 contested touches in that, so that's not a hugely Supercoach friendly game, that one.
No, and that was I mean, we had several concerns with him just in general. One, his longevity in that side, given the players that have coming back. Weller's going to play football this week. Don't know if that's senior or reserves, but Weller will play football. And I mean, that was always the issue with Charlie Constable, right? He was a bad user of the footy. White never really made sense that they were going to put him in a ball using role, and he did kick. He took the most kick-ins, took 6 kick-ins, played on for all of them. The ball just didn't really go anywhere.
Yeah, you'd love to see it, but you'd also love it to be slightly more effective. While we're on that game as well, Bodie Hewland debuted kind of out of nowhere, scored the 59. I again didn't see the game, but the 3 Gold Coast fans that I follow on Twitter were all very excited with how he went, and then nominated him as the Player of the Week, which in that side that didn't do overly well. I don't know what to read into that. And your boy Ben King, Lekdog.
Yes. To be honest, the 19 points sucks, and I shouldn't have had him on field. I was trying to be a little bit too clever, but he's certainly a trade-out candidate. But at this stage, I'm going to be holding him because I think he's just as likely to kick 4 goals next week. Dan Batten in the official Supercoach podcast talked about him a couple of weeks ago and sort of said he could mirror a Charlie Curnow year where Charlie didn't kick a goal in the first round last year and then went on to, at one point, he was averaging like 80 plus. So maybe he could be a slow burn. His best 22, we know that much. That he just needs to be better. But yeah, no, definitely disappointing at that price point.
Yeah.
A couple other guys, Patch, Olwen Davey scored 58 points, did small forwardy things, and did pretty much what we expected.
Yep, Noah Long did the same, 63 points. Watch and monitor based on how we'll go next week. I still think Owen Davey Jr. will be a sub-candidate at some point, but again, that's just what we're going to have with these first-year players during the season. And Will Ashcroft, Lekdog.
Yes.
Yeah, a big saving grace.
This was the fear, eh?
You know how? Yeah, I do remember you sending me a message quite late on Friday night saying, "What if I didn't start Will Ashcroft?" And I very nearly telephoned you and told you to go stick your head in a freezer. You may have been onto something.
Potentially. Let's not go too early because this is a guy that I think he scored like 300 points in an underage game. But yeah.
Oh, you're not trading him out, but just kind of
he's a watch. I might trade him out next week. 47% CBAs, just the 4 tackles. I mean, 4 tackles is not bad, but it's not great. Only 13 disposals, including a goal for 55 points.
Brisbane were miserable, though, so that is something to keep in mind.
The super aggressive coaches might get rewarded when they trade him out this week. They might get rewarded. Given what he has done in the preseason and as a junior, I'm willing to give him another week. But if he doesn't perform next week, I'm trading him. I will be trading him out of my side because it's all about sort of that value, that dollars for points thing in when you're competing for overall, which could argue after my first round, I shouldn't be. But I'm certainly looking to be aggressive with him next week. Yeah. The other thing we should say about all these guys, Patch, I think if they're not named this week, if any of these rookies you own are dropped by in terms of form, I think you're welcome, listeners at home, to trade them to someone else. I'm not going to sit around and waste a week if I've got a Campbell Chesser on the bench. He gets dropped. I've done this before year after year. I go, oh, but he might get picked next week or the week after, and then you just end up with a bunch of zeros on your team. If someone gets dropped, I'm not saying Will Ashcroft gets dropped, but if someone gets dropped, I think we trade them this week.
Yep, I think that is, especially for somebody who didn't perform. If it's a Cowan or a Chester, if they find themselves on the outer, or they're dropped and they come out and say, oh, we'll play him as a sub this week. I still think that's enough of a reason to go on your bike, son.
Non-owners,
there's a lot around. In terms
exactly.
Of offerings.
Yeah. Oliver Holland's played. He looked okay on the wing. I think that 60-65 is probably where he's going to sit. Scored 56, slightly elevated price point. Not one I'd be chasing if I didn't have Sava Radigalia. You'd think his spot in the team is a little bit more secure with the Stewart injury and a number of. So watch him. Scored 55 on the weekend. Not a must trade in, but watch him. And then all these other players, Patch, are sort of all scored 50 or less. I've got a few of them. Darcy Wilmot, happy to just hold him, wait and see. Josh Bruce I don't have, but I think might put his hand up against the... who are they playing this week?
They play St Kilda. I would be putting him on field this week, looking at what Brennan Cox
if I owned him on field, yeah.
He's not going to score 150, but I would be putting him on field this week.
And then there's all these other popular picks, your Oscar Bakers, your Lockie Cowans, your Anthony Community is in 20,000 teams, Fergus Green. They all didn't perform that well, but they all only cost us sort of 120 odd grand. So you hold them for a week at this price point, and we look to assess them next week. I think this week's primarily about fixing your sort of 350 to 250k players or trading a Tom Stewart.
Yep, I think you're correct. I think there'll be plenty that will get bulk reward from trading out a Rory Laird or a Josh Kelly or Kelly's probably not the right example because he'll miss a week, but trading these premiums that underperformed, there'll be people that will get a lot of mileage out of it, but by the same token, a lot of people I would be not doing that this week.
Yeah, there's a very small percentage of people out there, Patch, that have like a Keziah Pickett who scored 144, but if you got him, you'd have to trade him because he wasn't, because he's been suspended. Jason Horne-Francis, heaps of people jumping on. He's one I do want to watch a week. He's that awkward 350k. Looked really, really good, but, Willie Rioli also scored 126, and I don't think he's going to do that consistently. So I'd like one more round of information before I jump on a Jason Horne-Francis. And Archie Perkins is in no teams. I know someone who owns him, though, and he scored 114 points. And what the heck?
Oh man, I reckon it's the year he does well. I thought well would be like an 80 to 90. He'd be, someone I was looking at in drafts. Again, wait and see. But Essendon want to unleash him in that midfield. They want to get him further up the ground, and the fact that they've got Menzies, Davey, McDonald, Tip and Woody, if he's playing, means that he's probably got more scope to get up the ground a little bit. I don't know. Again, one to watch. But if you started him, give yourself a pat on the back. Well done. Love that for you.
Tough week to know what to do around mid-prices, Patch. So if we're talking like 290 to 390k, that sort of range, because Dane Rampy comes out and scores 150, and then Jacob Hopper comes out and scores 60 odd. Don't really know what to make of a lot of these guys. Jack Zeeble, one that I didn't end up starting despite him being my team very, 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 very late in the piece. Looked really good. Again, are North going to look this good every week?
No.
Probably not.
No, they will not. No, I don't think they will.
When I say look good, I'm obviously referring to their I don't know, Supercoach scores more than anything else.
They did look. I did watch most of that game, and they did actually look quite good. But
he was their leading kick intaker, by the way, Jack Zeeble.
He was. Yeah, he was. Yeah, look, it's I don't know.
But as you said, Aaron Hall not in that side.
Yeah, anyone that started Tom Powell as well, big thumbs up to you. I know he was on like -8 halfway through the first quarter and still finished with 70 odd. If he stops giving away stupid free kicks and being dumb early in first quarters, I think he'll be quite good. But again, I'm not bold enough to start him. I want another week of data, but if you started him, well done. I'm proud of you.
One thing with these mid-prices, Patch, I'm looking at them going, geez, I picked Will Setterfield and James Worpel. I'm a bloody genius. 99 and 97 points, respectively. I am a Supercoach god. And you look at the names around them, like Brandon Zirk Thatcher scored 100 points. Josh Ward scored 100 points. Anthony Scott scored 96 points. Sam Wiedemann scored 95 points. Like, it's very easy to pat ourselves on the back at this stage when we nail a Will Setterfield or a James Worpel. But when they're scoring the same as Cam Zurha and Jake Lever, we probably need to just keep our powder dry and not to make too much of a bold call. Their roles did look good, these two specifically, those inside sort of balls. Will Setterfield actually was able to spread the ground and play a little bit outside as well, which is what he was limited to at Carlton, but that exposure probably helped him a bit. I think he looked good, and James Worpel is he's a quantity, not quality guy. So as soon as the quantity drops, the scoring's going to drop.
Yep. Again, that's why I wanted, as you said, get powder dry and not not fire too early on bringing in these mid prices. If you're trading them, as you said, trade them down. Don't trade across yet.
Yep.
Get one more week of data, and then I think we look at the Hoppers to Horn Francis's, kind of those sorts of trades. But again, we've got heaps of trades. You could mount that argument that no, you just hit the go pedal, use that boost, get rid of them all, and bring in bulk points, bulk cash generation. It's what worked for a lot of people last year. I'm not going to sit here and tell people off for doing that, but I don't think I will be.
Yeah, I'd rather be jumping out of these players than into them. So Hopper, Fife, both in 50 and 44% share of teams. I'd rather be jumping, if I'm making a move this week, I'm jumping out of these players into cheaper players rather than jumping out of these players, as we discussed earlier, into a Worpel or a Jason Horne-Francis. And again, if I'm jumping into a Jason Horne-Francis, it's next week and it's from a Bailey Dale. What I would consider, if I'm an owner of one of these 300k players that didn't perform, jumping into a Finn Callahan, jumping into a Harry Sheasel, jumping into a, whatever, a Kyle Chandler, if he's named this week. And there's risk in doing that. But yes, I think, broadly speaking, I think we're on the same page. I just probably have a couple more personal holes to fill than you do.
No, I wonder why. Certainly not all that tinkering you were doing, Lekdog. Anyway.
I would have had issues either way. My issues are just in different spots now. Is there concerns, Patch? We've talked mid prices, we've talked rookies. Let's do a brief chat about premiums. Is there anyone that you're particularly concerned with? I know a lot of people are going to be moving out of, or thinking about moving out of, a Rory Laird. What are your thoughts on the matter? Is there anyone that you're concerned about?
Look, I don't think so. I think, Bailey Dale owners were pretty concerned on the weekend on the back of, not a great score. But again, he plays the Saints this week, could score a million billion points against them there. So I think I'd hold there. Rory Laird, likewise, they gave him a bit of attention. I would be holding fire on that front, just because he picked him for a reason. He hasn't scored below 50 for, what was the stat that Freako tweeted out about him not scoring below? It's been like 5 years since he scored, lower than that in a full game.
I wish I could answer, but you've given me a tweet without notice.
I have given you a tweet without notice. I wouldn't be happy with Andy Brayshaw, but again, I'm not trading any of these guys out unless they're suddenly coming out and missing this week.
So the interesting...
I started Zach Merritt. He scored the 92. I knew he'd be tagged this week. I knew Finn McGuinness would go straight to him at the opening bounce, would run around with him, and then I'm hoping that he scores 150 against Gold Coast this week. That's, I wouldn't be trading out anyone that you started as a year-long keeper unless it's Tom Stewart who's injured.
Yeah, it feels like a weird round. There's 22 players priced over 600k. Jared Witts, 140. Patrick Cripps, 121. Max Gawn, 140. Were the only three of that 22 priced above 600k that scored 120 or more. Everyone else scored either really badly, a 50 from Rory Laird, a 95 from Lachie Neale, a 94 from Callum Mills, or like around 105 to 110. It was a really strange round for premium selections. I don't know if that's a trend. I suggest it's probably not, but it's just worth noting that a lot of the information we got around these Uber Primos, 600k plus guys, is probably not super reliable after just 1 week.
No, and I think if we see Brayshaw score 70 again next week, then we start getting a bit concerned. But it's a one-off. We let it slide.
And then in that next bracket, the next sort of 20, let's say 22 players that take you down to sort of 550k, it was only Davis Uniacke, Stephen Gnigliog, and Tim English, who scored more than 120 as well. So that whole premium 550k realm was a really weird one for scoring. And if you had a good score this week if you nailed all of those selections for the week, but it would have been bloody hard to. All the points came from the cheaper guys this week. Your Tom Greens and your Luke Ryans and your James Ridleys, your Jordan Ridleys, and your Nick Dacosses and that sort of guy. So very, very, very strange round for scoring, which is why I'm calling for caution for people that backed in their research and pick guys for a reason. The reason I personally am panicking and trading is because I bought in a lot of guys 1 minute before the game started while being 173 beers deep. So per my personal situation, I feel like I'm projecting onto those at home.
Yes, I suspect that might be the case, and I would encourage everyone to, have your fun, play out all your scenarios in your head, and then hit reverse trade and maybe do just the one or two if you need to get your rookies set. Or if you started a donut and you've realised, I need to bring this guy in because I know I'll need to play around with these mid-prices next week, I would be fixing the rookies and then leaving it and then just walking away.
Yes. Or do what I do and use a trade boost. But I agree broadly that this week's about repairing rookies. And if you do have a Nick Madden loophole, I've got a strong feeling a few of these rookies are going to get dropped straight up this week. So I'd be looking to make corrections this week in that space. We're always going to end up with donuts. You're never going to end up without a donut naturally. That's why I always challenge people who start one this week. If you have players who are not playing, turn them into players who are playing.
Yep, it's good advice. I mean, you doubt my ability to pick a team that's going to have 30 players every week, then I get out of here, Lekdog. I can do that easy.
Okay, do it. I dare you.
Maybe I will. No, Josh Kelly's missing. I already can't. No, never mind. Injuries exist.
I just want to flag one more concern just while we wrap up. Or not concern, but guys like Tim Taranto and Darcy Parish, who both scored over 100 this week. I've got Taranto, I don't have Parish. But those are mass accumulators. They worry me, Patch. They worry me this year. We've already seen tagging happening. It's just something. I'm just going to put a pin in it. The Tim Taranto scoring 103, but requiring to do what he did on the weekend and get that much of the ball. Tom Mitchell-esque,
Yep, even Tom Mitchell.
Just putting a note here.
110, at the accumulator. Parish just cracked the ton with it was 37 touches or something.
Yeah, he had close to 40 touches. Yeah.
No, it's a valid concern. Concern. It's something to unpack a bit further on. I wouldn't be trading any of them out, but also
no, I'm not suggesting that, but it is something I want to watch.
Yeah, it's a noted observation and a good one at that.
Whereas a Josh Dunkley only needed 19 disposals because he's a tackle machine. I don't know if this is anything. I'm just simply chucking the sticky note up and we can address it again later on down the track.
We can indeed. Anyway, happy trading, Lekdog. I think that's probably covered it all. But yes, good luck fixing all of the holes that you've made in your team.
I look forward to it. I'm going to enjoy it. Good luck, community. There should be plenty of content on the website throughout the week. Make sure you like and subscribe and, leave comments. And yes, if there's issues with the website, please let us know. I'm trying to fix them.
Good luck, community. Go Bombers.
Go Blues.